Okay, how many articles are there in the Constitution? 7. Okay, there's 7 articles. Remember we said 7 articles, 7 key principles are the same thing. Don't let that get you confused if you see something like that on a quiz or a test or something that says 7 key principles. They're just talking about the 7 articles. Okay? All right, so the first article, the legislative branch. All right? First article sets up the legislative branch. We've talked about that. You guys should probably know that. The legislative branch contains 10 sections. I'm sorry. The first article contains 10 sections, okay? Which is just how that article is broken down. Okay, so this article is referred to as the elastic clause. And I'll put that down in speaker notes too. But the elastic clause, what does elastic sound like? I mean, what does elastic do? It stretches, right? So the elastic clause kind of gives the legislative branch the ability to stretch their powers a little bit by creating laws, okay? Now, they can't stretch them too far. Obviously, we have checks and balances and separation of powers where if they create a law that somebody doesn't like, or not that they don't like, but is unconstitutional, obviously the judicial or the executive branch can step in and veto that law, okay? But it does give a little bit of room for stretching their powers under this elastic clause, okay? Like we said, it sets up the legislative branch, which contains Congress. And there are how many houses in Congress? 2. And what are those 2 houses? The Senate and House of Representatives. Okay, good. So to be to be in the House of Representatives, you have to be at least 25 years old and live in the state that you are elected. And you also have to have lived in the United States and been a citizen for 7 years. Okay? House of Representatives are elected every 2 years. And the Senate, you're elected every 6 years. To be a senator, you have to be at least 30 years old, live in the state where you're elected, and have been a citizen and live in the United States for at least 9 years. Okay? Then I put down here at the bottom a bill. This is what gets put into the Congress a lot. Bills are run through Congress a lot. And a bill is just a draft of a proposed law. It doesn't mean anything. It's just basically a piece of paper that they have drawn up a law that they want to put to a vote and see what happens in Congress. And if it passes Congress, then it can be a law. Okay? But have you guys seen the Schoolhouse Rock, I'm Just a Bill, little song? Okay, I put it on Google Classroom. It kind of explains what a bill actually is, and how if it doesn't get passed through Congress, it gets thrown away and nothing ever comes of it. Okay. Okay, Article 2. They set up the executive branch. Okay, and the executive branch, what is their job? They carry out the laws, right? So the legislative branch creates them, executive branch carries them out. So the executive branch sets up the president. Okay, it contains the president, vice president, cabinet, and that kind of stuff. Okay, so it says in the second article that the president, to be the president, you have to be at least 35 years old, resident of the United States for at least 14 years, and born in the United States. Okay, so those are the requirements to be president. It also sets up the president's cabinet, which is his advisory body, which means he fills his cabinet with people that can advise him on different situations that he may not have a lot of information on, okay, or know much about. So that's going to be like your Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of War, okay, different things like that, where the president may need a little more information or not have a very good area, so they'll add somebody to the cabinet that will have a lot of information on that subject, or spend a lot of their time studying that subject. Okay. Okay. So Article 3 is the judicial branch. The judicial branch. What does the judicial branch do? They interpret the laws. Okay. They interpret the laws. The judicial branch is made up of the court systems. Okay. With the Supreme Court being at the top, there are Nobody is higher than the Supreme Court. Okay. Now I put these two words on here in bold and italicized. These are just another. These are like some vocab words that you probably won't have a quiz over, so I put them on here so you guys can see them. And it says most courts have what's called original jurisdiction. I put the definitions down in the speaker notes for you. So original jurisdiction means that that court has the authority to be the first one to hear a court case. Okay, they'll be the original court to hold that case or to have that case in their cabinet. Okay, not in their cabinet, in their court. Okay, the Supreme Court has what's called appellate jurisdiction. All right, means that most court cases that are heard at the Supreme Court level will be cases that have been heard before and appealed so many times that they got to the Supreme Court. Okay, very rarely does the Supreme Court have original jurisdiction or hear a court case for the first time. Okay, because whatever the Supreme Court says goes, that's the final answer. Okay, they can't be changed for any reason. All right, so usually it's after somebody didn't get the ruling they wanted at a lower court, they appeal it up to the Supreme Court. Okay, try again. Okay, fourth article. An article we haven't talked about yet. We've covered the other three before, and we've talked about how they set things up. But Article 4 is new to us, and it talks about relations with the states. Okay? So one way to look at this is like the states are all like brothers and sisters. They're all related. Okay? And then the national government would be like mom and dad. Okay? So this explains the relationship of the states to one another, kind of being like brothers and sisters, and the national government being the parents. All right? So this article requires each state to give citizens of other states the same rights as its own. It addresses the admission of new states and guarantees the national government will protect the states. All right? So this when it says this article requires each state to give citizens the same rights as its own citizens, or of other states the same rights, that means that if you go into another state, you get to have the same rights as the citizens of that state. Okay? So if you go to Arkansas or you go to another state, you get those rights in that state. However, you still have to follow their laws. Okay? They may have different laws than we have in Oklahoma. Okay? But like Texas, take Texas for example. You know, in Oklahoma we have all kinds of casinos, right? There's casinos everywhere. All right? In Texas, there's none because it's illegal in Texas. Okay? Casinos are illegal in Texas. So you can't move to Texas and open a casino, okay? Because it's illegal in that state. You can go to casinos here because they're legal. All right, but you have to say that you have to follow their laws. You may be able to enjoy other things in Texas that Oklahoma doesn't have, but you can't break their laws because it's a law in Oklahoma, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Admission of new states, that just sets up how people can, or how a state can be added to the union. All right. With that, we'll talk about that more when we got to talk about Louisiana Territory and how they carved states out of all that new territory. Basically, you have to have it's like 4 or 5 step process. You have to have like so many people agree to move there to this territory. Then you have to have so many more people to where you get a Congress. And you have to have so many more people before you get a governor. Then you have to have so many more people to where you can have an application into the United States to become a state. Then you have to wait to see if that gets approved. It's a long process. It takes, it's a while, but there are just certain steps that's set up by this article. Okay? And it guarantees the national government will protect the states. So if anything happens, kind of like that whole mom and dad thing, mom and dad will step in and take care of everything for the kids. Okay? Which would be the states. All right, so and it guarantees every state a Republican form of government, which basically, it's just a mirror of the national government form. Okay, national form of government. Okay, the fifth article, Article 5, talks about the amendment process and how they can change the Constitution. Okay, that's what an amendment is, a change to the Constitution. So that's what it says. It spells out the ways the Constitution can be amended or changed. But we talked about the other day that the only way an amendment could be added is if 2/3 of the Congress agree to the proposal. If that doesn't happen, then they have to have a convention with 3/4 of the states. The only one that has ever had to go to a convention is the 21st Amendment, and that would be to repeal prohibition, which was the illegal sale of alcohol. Okay, that's the only one they had to do that. Which was the 21st. And it states that no amendment can take away votes of another state in Senate. So how many votes does each Senate get? Or each state get in Senate? Sorry. Two. All right, so this says it has to be equal, and it's not very like, say, if everybody moved away from one state and there's only like 5 people left in one state, they still get 2 votes. Okay? They can't change unless they give up those votes, or they obviously, if they leave the Union, if they leave the United States, break away or something. Okay, then they wouldn't have votes. All right, Article 6, national supremacy. Okay, so when you hear supremacy, or the supremacy says this contains the supremacy clause, which says that laws passed by Congress and treaties of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and recognize the U.S. Constitution as supreme when it contradicts that of the states. So, what does that mean when you hear supreme? When it's supreme law of the land, what does that make you think of?
It's the highest law.
Right. There's nothing above it. Nothing can overrule the Constitution or a law put out by Congress. Okay. Supremacy clause, supreme law of the land, anything put out by Congress or voted on, put into law by Congress, or in the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Now, the U.S. Constitution is supreme when it contradicts other states, like that of the states. So if the state has something, so if we look at it like this, a lot of states now have legalized medical marijuana, right? Even some states have legalized recreational marijuana. Okay, so at state level, it's legal. Okay, but at the federal level, it's still illegal. Okay, and that when Congress has a law, it's the supreme law of the land, so it's still illegal at a federal level. So you can have it in your state, you can't take it across state lines, and you cannot take it across national borders. So like it's legal in Canada and it's legal in the state of Washington, but it's illegal in the United States. So if somebody were to drive across from Canada into Washington, and they got stopped at the little place, the little drive-through port, customs, okay, and they get stopped and they say, we need to check your car, and they have marijuana in their car. Well, guess what? It gets taken, they get fined, or they go to jail. Okay, even though it's legal where they're coming from and legal where they're going, it's not legal to bring into the United States. You can't cross our borders with it. Okay, so that's where the supreme law of the land comes in the Constitution. Okay, do it.
And how does it get into the United States?
It's a good question. I know. Well, and some people, it's been grown, all over forever. So, okay, Article 7, ratification. So all Article 7 says is that it's going to take 9 states to ratify. Once 9 states ratify the Constitution, then it is put into law. Okay, and that's all it says. It's super simple, and it just says once 9 states of the 13 have ratified this Constitution, then it will take effect. We know that eventually all 13 states ratified at the time, so it was 100%. But once 9 had ratified it, then it immediately became law. Okay, so that is how that happened. That's all Article 7 is about. It's just ratification. Okay. So, that is all on that. There are a couple videos on Google Classroom. From your book, they're real short. Like I put the one over there, the one on there that says I'm just a bill. If you want to watch that to explain about bills and how bills work in Congress. And then there's one about Bill of Rights. So you may have already watched some of them that I put on there like Friday. So you can watch those. So tomorrow we're gonna talk about the Bill of Rights, okay, which is the first 10 minutes. So if you want to start looking in your book, I think the Constitution is in your book under Chapter 6. So if you want to look at it and see if you want to give yourself an idea of what the Bill of Rights, what we'll be talking about tomorrow is, you can go ahead and do that. If you've got other work, you can work on it. Okay, that's all. We got through this a little faster than I thought we would today. You got a question? Okay, go ahead. Yep. That's all.